quantum resonance scanner froze as it passed over specimen 7294. Commander Vrilex's compound eyes widened, all four lenses dilating in unison. "Stop the procession," she ordered, her translator clicking out the syllables. Across the vast chamber of the Galactic evaluation vessel Indomitable Truth, 300 different species representatives stood in orderly lines. The annual resilience trials were about to begin, tests designed to identify worthy races for coalition membership. Most species sent their champions, genetically engineered super soldiers, enhanced diplomats, or evolutionary specialists. Earth had sent Archer Caney, a lanky human male with no apparent modifications and unremarkable biometrics. "You," Vrilex's appendage extended toward the human. "Your readings are inconsistent with your physical structure." Archer shrugged. "I'm just here because I won our planetary lottery. First contact was only 8 months ago. We didn't have time for fancy preparations." This caused a ripple of what passed for laughter among the assembled aliens. The Ixlathi ambassador, a towering insectoid with iridescent carapace, clicked its mandibles in amusement. "The primitive thinks this is a ceremonial event," the Ixlathi remarked. "Perhaps we should explain that failure means your world becomes a protectorate for the next millennium." Archer's expression didn't change. "Our briefing was quite thorough, actually." "Then you understand the futility of your participation," said Mazzari, the snake-like representative of the Galactic Council. "The trials test the absolute limits of sentient capability, species trained for generations." "We'll do our best," Archer replied simply. Commander Vrilex's aide approached with a data slate. "Commander, the humans' resilience profile is unusual. Their endurance markers exceed categorization in several metrics." "Impossible," Vrilix said. "Run diagnostics." "Already completed." "Thrice," the aide replied. "The equipment functions normally." Vrilix turned her attention back to the human. "What modifications have you undergone?" "None," Archer said. "I'm a park ranger from Montana." The gathered dignitaries exchanged glances. This had to be some kind of deception. "The first trial begins in one rotation," Vrilix announced. "The element chamber awaits all participants." As the procession continued, Archer was processed into the competitor quarters, a sterile, adaptive environment that would theoretically accommodate any species else. Later that night, Ambassador Nix of the ancient Veluthian race visited the humans' quarters. Nix's translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that conveyed concern. "You should withdraw," Nix advised. "I have witnessed 2,000 cycles of these trials. Unmodified species never survive the element chamber." Archer was doing push-ups on the floor of his quarters. "With respect, Ambassador, humans are pretty good at surprising people. The element chamber subjects participants to extreme conditions, temperature ranges that would vaporize water or solidify atmosphere, pressures that collapse molecular structures, radiation that unravels DNA." Archer stood, wiping sweat from his brow. "Sounds rough." "It is not merely rough, human. It is designed to eliminate 90% of participants in the first trial. Why would your species send someone unprepared?" Archer's eyes reflected something Nix couldn't identify. "Who says I'm unprepared? We just prepare differently." As the ambassador departed, puzzled by the human's confidence, Archer pulled out a small device and transmitted a coded message back to Earth. "Assessment correct. They have no idea what humans can endure. Proceeding as planned." In the control chamber, Commander Vrilix reviewed the human's detailed scans again. The readings showed nothing special. Average strength, modest cognitive capabilities, standard sensory array. Yet something in the biometric patterns suggested anomalies that their technology couldn't properly interpret. "This species is either remarkably foolish," she mused to her second-in-command, "or they possess qualities our science has yet to measure." "What shall we do, Commander?" Vrilex's eyes narrowed. "Proceed as normal. The element chamber does not discriminate between the foolish and the exceptional. By tomorrow we will know which category this human belongs to." Little did any of them know The galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented. The element chamber loomed before the assembled competitors, a massive spherical construct of impossibly dense alloys with a surface that shimmered like oil on water. One by one, the galaxy's finest entered through the adaptive membrane portal. Archer stood in line behind Corvo, a hulking reptilian whose scaled hide had been genetically reinforced to withstand extreme conditions. The creature's breath emerged as visible vapor despite the controlled environment. "Human," Corvo rumbled. "They remodeled my entire respiratory system for this trial. What have your scientists done to prepare you?" Archer pulled a small metallic flask from his pocket. "Coffee black." Before Corvo could respond, a melodic tone announced his turn. The reptilian stepped through the membrane and vanished. Minutes later, emergency medical drones rushed into the chamber. They emerged carrying Corvo's unconscious form, scales blackened at the edges. "Subject 86 eliminated," announced the dispassionate voice of the chamber's AI. When Archer's turn came, Commander Vrillex approached personally. "Last chance to withdraw with dignity," she offered. "Your world can try again in the next cycle." "Thanks for your concern," Archer replied, rolling his shoulders. "But I'd like to proceed." As he stepped through the membrane, whispers circulated among the observing dignitaries that the human would likely be the fastest elimination in trial history. Inside the element chamber, reality seemed to bend. The environment shifted rapidly. First extreme heat that would have boiled the blood of most creatures, then crushing cold that should have crystallized his cells. Atmospheric pressure fluctuated wildly while gravity intensified tenfold, then reversed completely. Through the observation windows, the galactic representatives watched in stunned silence as Archer remained standing, bent and clearly struggling, but conscious and mobile. "Impossible," muttered Chief Scientist Lyrex, a being composed primarily of crystalline neural networks. "The human's body should have ruptured from pressure differential alone." Vrillex studied her instruments. Current conditions. Temperature at 612 Kelvin, pressure at 97 atmospheres, gravity at 8.3 standard units. The human should be a puddle of organic compounds. Minutes stretched into an hour. The element chamber cycled through its increasingly brutal program, yet Archer remained. His skin reddened, blistered, froze, and healed in disturbing succession. Twice he collapsed to his knees only to rise again, teeth gritted in determination. In the monitoring station, the readings made no sense. "Commander," reported a technician, "the human cellular structure is adapting, not just resisting but actively responding to the environmental changes." "Analyze his genetic code again," Vrillex ordered. "We have 7 times. It's standard, carbon-based bipedal humanoid DNA. Nothing in its structure explains this level of adaptability." By the 3rd hour, only 12 of the original 300 participants remained in the chamber. When the final sequence initiated, a combination of neutron radiation and dimensional phasing, even the enhanced Ixlathi champion finally succumbed. Yet Archer remained. When the chamber finally powered down, Archer stumbled out, clothing in tatters, skin raw and flaking but alive. Medical drones surrounded him immediately. No permanent damage detected. One reported with what almost sounded like confusion. "Accelerated cellular regeneration in progress." Ambassador Nix approached, luminescence flickering with emotion. "How?" "Our records indicate humans are fragile creatures with limited environmental tolerance." Archer accepted a container of nutritional fluid, drinking greedily before answering. "We're fragile compared to some, sure. But humans evolved on a planet with wildly varying conditions. Our ancestors survived ice ages and volcanic winters. We've lived in deserts, tundras, and everything between. But the radiation alone would have killed me eventually," Archer admitted. "But it turns out humans can withstand a surprising amount of punishment before we actually die. We call it stubborn." News of the human's unexpected survival spread quickly through the vessel. That night, as Archer recovered in his quarters, Commander Vrillex received disturbing news from her intelligence officers. "Commander, we've intercepted communications. Earth didn't send their champion by lottery as claimed. They selected this human specifically. For what qualities? Vrillix demanded. Unknown. But we found something else. The human's occupation before selection. He wasn't just a park ranger as stated. What then? According to Earth records, Archer Kane was a smoke jumper, someone who parachutes into active forest fires to combat them on foot. And before that, an ultra-marathon competitor in something called the Badwater 135, a race through one of their planet's hottest deserts. Vrillix's compound eyes narrowed. They sent us someone already conditioned to extreme environments. Yes, Commander. And our intelligence suggests this individual is not even exceptional among their kind, merely well-trained. As Vrillix contemplated this disturbing information, Archer lay in his recovery pod, sending another encrypted transmission to Earth. First trial complete. They think I'm exceptional. Don't correct them yet. The response came minutes later. Understood. Next trials will reveal more. Remember the strategy. The mental labyrinth evaluates cognitive resilience, explained Proctor Zibble, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate exosuit. Your consciousness will navigate a simulated reality designed to locate and exploit psychological breaking points. Archer and the 11 remaining competitors stood before floating cerebral interface pods. Only 3 participants had recovered fully from the element chamber. The others showed visible damage. A crystalline being with fractured limbs, a methane breather whose containment suit bore scorch marks, and Archer himself, pink skin still, healing. Many species have advanced mental defenses, Zibble continued. Psychic barriers, cognitive partitioning, or neural redundancy. What mental augmentations do humans employ? None, Archer replied. We face our demons the old-fashioned way. The competitors entered their respective pods. As neural interfaces connected, Archer's consciousness slipped into the labyrinth. He found himself in a perfect recreation of Earth's Mariana Trench, crushing darkness at the ocean's deepest point. The pressure should have killed him instantly, yet in this simulation, he felt only the psychological weight of absolute isolation. Interesting subject, observed Chief Psychologist Eliune, studying Archer's brain activity. Most species panic when faced with environmental extremes. Try scenario Delta 9, ordered Vrillix. The simulation shifted. Archer now floated in the vacuum of space, oxygen depleting rapidly. Then he was buried alive, then trapped in a burning building, then falling endlessly through atmosphere. His fear response activates appropriately, noted Eliune. But look at these patterns. He's not fighting the simulation, he's accepting it. Indeed, Archer's technique became clear. Rather than resisting each terrifying scenario, he acknowledged the fear, then worked methodically through each situation, conserving oxygen, searching for escape routes, positioning himself for optimal survival chances. Fascinating, Eliune whispered. Most species attempt to reject the simulation or retreat into psychological safe zones. Hours passed. The mental labyrinth adapted, creating increasingly personalized horrors for each competitor. One by one, their minds broke, some retreating into catatonia, others ejecting violently from the simulation. For Archer, the labyrinth created a scenario of absolute helplessness, watching loved ones suffer while being unable to intervene. His vitals spiked dangerously. We should terminate, suggested Eliune. His neurotransmitter levels indicate extreme distress. No, countered Vrillix. Continue. I want to see the breaking point. Inside the simulation, Archer endured psychological torment designed specifically to break human empathy bonds. His consciousness fractured, then reformed, then fractured again. Remarkable resilience, muttered Eliune. It's as if his mind has experienced trauma before and developed recovery pathways. When only Archer and the Ixlathi champion remained, the labyrinth shifted to its final phase. A direct confrontation with each being's deepest existential fears. The Ixlathi's mind collapsed almost immediately when faced with the concept of evolutionary irrelevance. Archer alone remained, confronting a personalized nightmare of meaningless sacrifice and cosmic insignificance. His neural patterns showed severe distress yet maintained coherence. When the simulation finally ended, medical personnel rushed to the pods. The Ixlathi champion was removed on life support, its higher brain functions severely compromised. Archer emerged on his own power, shaking violently but conscious. "How?" demanded Zeeble, translucent form swirling with agitation inside the exosuit. "Your species has no psychic defenses, no neural shielding." Archer's voice came hoarsely. "Humans call it compartmentalization. We've been traumatizing ourselves for millennia. War, disaster, personal tragedy. Those who survive learn to function despite carrying their wounds." Later in the medical bay, Commander Vrillex observed Archer's recovery with growing concern. The human's psychological profile suggests prior exposure to extreme stress scenarios, reported Ilyune. "Not simulated training, actual survival experiences." "Elaborate," ordered Vrillex. "His neural pathways show evidence of trauma response and recovery, multiple cycles of it. This being has repeatedly experienced psychological distress, processed it, and continued functioning. It's as if their entire species undergoes natural stress inoculation throughout their lives." Vrillex's compound eyes narrowed. "Access their planetary records. What traumas has this specific human endured?" The report came back quickly. Archer Caney had indeed survived multiple life-threatening situations. A mountain climbing disaster that claimed 2 teammates, 3 years in a conflict, zone with a humanitarian organization, and the forest fires he routinely parachuted into. "They sent us someone with pre-existing trauma resilience," Vrillex realized, "and now he's the only competitor who's completed both trials." That evening, representatives from 6 different galactic powers approached Archer with discreet alliance offers. He politely declined each one. In his secure quarters, he transmitted another message to Earth. "Mental trial complete. Remaining competitors down to 5. They're starting to understand our advantage." The reply came swiftly. "Excellent. 3rd trial is where we make our point. Proceed as instructed." As Archer prepared for sleep, Ambassador Nix visited again. Luminescence, dimmed to a concerned glow. "The next trial tests endurance beyond physical or mental challenges," they warned. "No human has ever been subjected to what you will face tomorrow." Archer smiled thinly. "With respect, Ambassador, humans subject themselves to worse every day. We call it life on Earth." Dawn cycle aboard the Indomitable Truth brought unprecedented attention to the resilience trials. The unexpected survival of an unmodified human had attracted observers from across the coalition. Dignitaries crowded, viewing galleries, analyzing data from previous trials, and placing wagers on which of the 5 remaining competitors would break first. "The Endurance Crucible is not a test of mere physical or mental limits," announced Grand Arbiter Forex, a cybernetically enhanced being whose original organic form had been lost to history. "It is an assessment of your comprehensive survival capacity over extended durations." The 5 survivors, Archer, a silicon-based crystalline entity named Christos, a biomechanical collective called Unified Myvox, a gaseous intelligence designated Aura 9, and a quantum probability construct known only as Possibility, were led to separate isolation chambers. Each chamber contains customized stressors calibrated to your species' documented tolerances, Forex explained. "The test continues until only one remains. Last cycle's winner endured 19 standard days." As the chambers sealed, Archer found himself in a stark white room with nothing but a small water dispenser and a nutrient paste distributor. Commander Vrillex addressed her senior staff in the monitoring center. "What parameters did you set for the human?" Chief Technician Orvin displayed the protocol. Sleep deprivation, caloric restriction, sensory manipulation, periodic gravitational fluctuations, and irregular sound bursts to prevent adaptation. "That seems unnecessarily cruel," observed Ambassador Nix, who had joined the observation team. "All competitors face equivalently challenging conditions," Vrillex countered. "The silicon entity endures molecular destabilizers, The collective experiences forced desynchronization. Yet somehow, Nix noted, I suspect the human may surprise us again. By the third day, fatigue showed clearly in Archer's movements. The chamber algorithms prevented sleep longer than 20 minutes. Food provided only minimal calories, and random environmental shifts kept his body in constant stress. By the fifth day, Archer had developed a shuffling gait, dark circles under his eyes. Yet he continued performing basic calisthenics hourly. Note the routine maintenance of physical function despite cognitive impairment, said Chief Scientist Lyrex. Most species prioritize mental recovery over physical activity when resources are scarce. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, explained Eliune. Their historical survival strategy involved pursuing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They're optimized for sustained moderate exertion, rather than short bursts of maximum performance. On the seventh day, the quantum probability construct possibility destabilized and withdrew after its probability matrices could no longer maintain coherence. On the ninth day, Archer began talking to himself. First, whispered conversations, then, animated discussions with invisible companions. The medical team nearly intervened until they realized he was deliberately creating social stimulation. He's manufacturing interaction to preserve sanity, Eliune noted with fascination, creating artificial social bonds to combat isolation. By the 12th day, both Aura 9 and Unified Myvox had withdrawn, leaving only Archer and Christos. The crystalline entity showed minimal signs of distress, an advantage of its inorganic nature. Meanwhile, Archer's condition had deteriorated visibly. He had lost significant weight, developed a persistent tremor, and spoke in fragmented sentences during cognitive assessments. The human will withdraw within hours, predicted Orvin. Biometric. Readings show severe electrolyte imbalance and microsleep episodes. Yet Archer continued his routine, push-ups, stretches, walking the chamber perimeter, reciting what appeared to be memorized texts ranging from poetry to technical manuals. On the 15th day, observers from 17 coalition worlds had assembled to witness the unprecedented endurance battle. The silicon entity Christos showed the first signs of crystalline structure degradation, but remained functioning at near-optimal levels. Archer, by contrast, was a shambling figure of determination. When asked during an assessment why he continued, despite obvious suffering, his answer stunned the observers. Because humans have always suffered, he managed through cracked lips. It's not the exception, it's our baseline. On the 18th day, Christos unexpectedly withdrew, its crystalline matrix showing cascading fracture patterns that threatened permanent damage. Archer Caney became the last competitor standing, breaking all previous endurance crucible records. When the chamber finally opened, medical teams rushed in expecting to find a broken being. Instead, Archer walked out under his own power, emaciated and unsteady but conscious. Impossible, muttered Vrillex. His body should have shut down days ago. In the medical bay, rapid treatment restored Archer's critical functions. During recovery, he was approached by Lyrex. Your demonstration defies our understanding of carbon-based limitations, the chief scientist admitted. What technology or enhancement allowed this? Archer's laugh was dry and wheezing. No technology, just human stubbornness and evolutionary history. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators, weather, disease, each other. Those who couldn't endure didn't pass on their genes. Later, as coalition representatives debated the implications, Vrillex received disturbing intelligence. Commander, we've analyzed Earth's historical records. Their species regularly engages in voluntary endurance activities they call sports that mimic survival conditions, running enormous distances, swimming in freezing water, climbing mountains without oxygen assistance, fasting for spiritual purposes. Some humans routinely subject themselves to conditions comparable to our crucible, for recreation. Vrillex stared at the report in disbelief. What manner of species considers suffering a recreational activity? That night, Archer, sent his most detailed transmission yet to Earth. Third trial complete. Final 2 trials remain. Coalition in disarray over results. Species previously considered apex competitors are reconsidering human admission application. Proceeding to ideological phase. The response contained only 6 words. Perfect. The real test begins now. The 4th trial commenced in the Judgment Chamber, a vast amphitheater where coalition species had evaluated moral fitness for 10,000 years. Unlike previous tests targeting physical and mental limits, the ethical confrontation assessed ideological resilience and cultural values. The 4 remaining competitors, each having survived different trial combinations, faced the ethical tribunal. 9 beings representing the foundational philosophical traditions of galactic civilization. Archer Caney of Earth, intoned High Adjudicator Merithrax, a being of pure thought contained within an ancient mechanical shell. You face judgment on behalf of your species. The previous trials tested individual capability. Now we assess your collective cultural fitness. The chamber darkened. Immersive holograms surrounded Archer, recreating scenes from Earth's history, wars, environmental destruction, genocide, alongside achievements in art, science, and compassion. Explain humanity's ethical contradictions, commanded Merithrax. You create both beauty and atrocity with equal passion. Archer stood unmoving as images of human triumph and failure flickered around him. The gallery watched, fascinated by this final evaluation of the unexpected human survivor. We contain multitudes, Archer replied simply. Our capacity for both creation and destruction comes from the same source, our imagination. Insufficient, declared tribunal member Vox, an entity composed of billions of networked nanites. Species with unresolved ethical frameworks invariably destabilize coalition harmony, provide concrete ethical foundations. The questioning continued relentlessly, probing humanity's religious conflicts, environmental negligence, social inequalities. Every dark chapter of human history laid bare. Unlike the other competitors who presented carefully constructed ethical systems from their civilizations, Archer offered no grand unified theory of human morality. Humans don't have consensus on fundamental questions, he admitted. We debate, we argue, we change our minds. Our ethics evolve. This approach scandalized many observers. Coalition species typically presented ideological uniformity during admission trials. This being admits his species lacks coherent values, protested the Ixlathi representative. How can such a primitive civilization contribute meaningfully to galactic harmony? Commander Vrilex, observing silently, noticed something others missed. Archer wasn't defensive about humanity's flaws. He acknowledged them frankly while contextualizing them within humanity's ongoing moral development. Our strength isn't in having perfect answers, Archer explained during intense questioning about Earth's climate crisis. It's in our capacity to recognize problems and adapt. Humans can hold contradictory ideas simultaneously and still function. We can acknowledge our failures while working to transcend them. The tribunal shifted tactics, presenting increasingly complex ethical dilemmas through simulation. A scenario where saving billions required sacrificing millions. A choice between preserving ancient cultural heritage or advancing technological progress. Situations where absolute principles led to disastrous practical outcomes. To the tribunal's surprise, Archer navigated these scenarios not with rigid principles but with contextual reasoning, emotional intelligence, and pragmatic compromise. Note the human's decision-making process, Elyun observed to Vrilex. He doesn't apply fixed algorithms. He weighs competing values, acknowledges uncertainty, and makes provisional judgments while accepting potential error. In the final phase, competitors faced direct neural probing to verify authentic belief versus diplomatic performance. The cybernetic competitor from Mechanus Prime failed immediately. Its programmed ethical subroutines contradicted its actual, operational parameters. The hive mind delegate from the Zerelian confluence withdrew when forced to confront its subordination of individual consciousness. Only Archer and a transcendent energy being named Luminex remained for the final judgment. Your species harbors profound ethical conflicts, Merithrax concluded. Yet you personally demonstrate remarkable moral coherence despite lack of absolute principles. Explain this contradiction. It's not a contradiction, Archer replied. It's precisely because humans lack absolute certainty that we develop individual moral compasses. We're forced to think for ourselves, to question, to doubt. Our greatest ethical advances came from individuals challenging established norms. Luminex presented perfect ethical harmony, a being whose nature embodied its principles absolutely. By coalition standards, the choice seemed obvious. Yet when the tribunal rendered judgment, they announced an unprecedented decision. Both candidates had passed, but with different evaluations. Luminex demonstrates perfect ethical equilibrium within established parameters, explained Merithrax. The human demonstrates ethical adaptation and evolution, qualities we did not previously consider valuable, but now recognize as potentially essential for responding to novel challenges. Later, in a secure chamber, the tribunal met with Commander Vrillex. The human presents a paradox, said Merithrax. Their species exhibits moral chaos, yet produces individuals capable of principled integrity, despite that chaos. Perhaps because of it. Their ethical evolution mirrors their biological evolution, noted Vrillex. Competitive, messy, inefficient, yet remarkably adaptable. That evening, Archer transmitted to Earth. 4th trial complete. Final trial tomorrow. Coalition reassessing human application on fundamental level. They're beginning to understand. The response? Perfect. Final phase authorized. Reveal our true purpose. The final chamber differed from all previous venues. No technological marvels, no environmental controls, no monitoring systems, just a simple room with a single table and 2 chairs. Waiting there was Grand Arbiter Forex, the Coalition's supreme evaluator. Please sit. Archer Caney of Earth. As Archer took his seat, Forex regarded him with ancient optical sensors. This final trial is unlike the others. No physical stress, no mental labyrinths, no ethical dilemmas. Simply conversation, being to being. Archer nodded, the accumulated toll of the previous trials evident in his still gaunt appearance. In 10,000 years of evaluation, Forex began, only 17 species have reached this chamber. Only 9 were admitted to the coalition. None were as perplexing as humanity. Outside, the entire diplomatic corps watched through a one-way quantum field. Representatives from 200 worlds had assembled to witness this unprecedented final evaluation. Tell me, Forex continued, why does Earth seek coalition membership? For the same reasons as any species, Archer replied. Knowledge, protection, exchange of ideas. Indeed, yet your approach to the trial suggests different motivations. Forex's mechanical form shifted slightly. You were selected specifically for these trials, not as a champion displaying humanity's peak capabilities, but as a demonstration of something else entirely. What? The moment had arrived. Archer straightened, fatigue falling away. You're right, he acknowledged. I'm not here to show how exceptional humans can be. I'm here to show how ordinary we are. Confusion rippled through the observing dignitaries. Explain, commanded Forex. Every species sends their ultimate specimens, genetically enhanced, cybernetically augmented, specially bred champions. Archer said. Earth sent me, a human with good training but no modifications. Not to prove superiority, but to make a point. Archer leaned forward. Your coalition evaluates species based on what your best can do under optimal conditions. Humanity wants you to see what our average can endure when necessary. The implication stunned the observers. Commander Vrillex's compound eyes widened as understanding dawned. You claim to be ordinary? Forex's voice contained a note of disbelief. By human standards, yes. I'm well trained but unexceptional. On Earth, millions parachute into fires, run ultramarathons, endure extreme conditions, and make complex ethical choices daily. What you've witnessed isn't humanity's ceiling, it's our baseline. Archer produced a small device and activated it, A holographic display appeared, showing thousands of humans engaged in activities that paralleled the trials. Free divers holding breath for impossible durations, meditation practitioners demonstrating extraordinary mental control, emergency, workers enduring days without rest during crises. We wanted you to understand what humanity truly offers the coalition. Not peak performance, but unparalleled adaptability. Not perfect specimens, but a species that thrives through challenge. Forex remained silent for a long moment. This approach risks rejection. Coalition standards value optimal capability. We know, Archer replied, but we believed honesty about our nature was more important than creating false impressions. Humans won't contribute to the coalition through perfection. We're messy, contradictory, and stubborn. But we survive conditions that should break us. We think in ways your algorithms can't predict. We find solutions where none should exist. The room fell silent as Forex processed this revelation. Finally, the Grand Arbiter spoke. In 10 millennia, no species has approached membership this way. All others present idealized versions, hiding limitations behind enhancements. A mechanical sound emerged, perhaps the closest thing to a laugh Forex could produce. You instead reveal your ordinary nature as your greatest strength. In the observation chamber, coalition representatives engaged in urgent discussions. Commander Vrillex approached the communication panel. Grand Arbiter, request permission to address the human directly. Permission granted, Vrillex entered the revelation chamber. Our intelligence suggests you are indeed unexceptional by human standards, she acknowledged. Which raises a disturbing question. If an ordinary human can survive our most challenging trials, what would your actual champions be capable of? Archer smiled. That's precisely the question Earth wanted you to consider. Not as a threat, but as an honest assessment of what we bring to the table. Vrillex's compound eyes fixed on Archer. Why reveal this strategy now? You could have completed the trials under false pretenses. Because the final quality humans offer is transparency. Even when it's uncomfortable, we want allies who understand us as we are, not as we pretend to be. The next 12 hours saw unprecedented debate among the coalition leadership. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now reassessed the implications of an entire civilization possessing such fundamental resilience. When the final judgment came, it wasn't what anyone expected. Grand Arbiter Forex addressed the assembled galactic representatives. The Galactic Coalition hereby extends conditional membership to Earth, not based on traditional metrics of advancement, but on recognition of unique adaptive capacity. Humanity brings perspectives our collective civilization requires. As ceremonial protocols commenced, Ambassador Nix approached Archer privately. Your strategy carried enormous risk, they noted, bioluminescence pulsing with curiosity. Why expose your true purpose? Archer watched as coalition representatives debated the implications of humanity's admission. Because relationships built on deception ultimately fail, he replied. Humans have learned that lesson painfully throughout our history. Better to be accepted for who we truly are than admired for who we're not. Nix's glow shifted to a pattern, indicating deeper understanding. Your species remains paradoxical, simultaneously fragile and indestructible, divided yet unified, primitive yet profound. That's humanity in a nutshell. Archer agreed with a tired smile. We contain contradictions, and make them work anyway. Later, aboard the transport returning to Earth, Archer transmitted his final report. Mission complete. Coalition membership secured on our terms. They understand now. Humanity's strength isn't in being exceptional, but in making ordinary beings accomplish the impossible when necessary. The response from Earth was simple. Well done. Come home. As the galactic arm containing Sol system came into view, Archer reflected on the profound impact of the past weeks. The coalition had accepted humanity not for technological advancement or biological superiority, but for something far more valuable in a dangerous universe: the demonstrated ability to face impossible odds and survive anyway. The galaxy would never be the same. neither would humanity. And that was precisely the point.